It's the Texas Tech preview. Plus, we've got a ton from Big 12 Media Days for men's and women's basketball coming your way, including exclusive interviews with Hailey Van Lith, Sedona Prince, and Frankie on this episode of Frogs Insider. Hey, Frog fans, welcome into another episode of Frogs Insider presented by the Flying T Club. Jamie Plunkett here. Melissa Treebwasser will be along shortly, as she does during these midweek shows with her fantastic Texas Tech preview with Rob from Gamblin Gauchos. Excited for you guys to hear that conversation. Really looking forward to it. It's a fantastic one, previewing two football teams that, frankly, are both in shambles in different ways, which I think means we're going to see a pretty funny football game coming up on Saturday afternoon, 2:30 at Amon G. Carter Stadium on Fox. The fact that this game is being broadcast on Fox, my goodness. Meanwhile, SMU and Duke, both 6-1 teams, they can't get off the ACC network this upcoming weekend. That tells you about the state of both of those conferences. I believe that one is that TCU and Texas Tech are on Fox, and SMU Duke is on the ACC network. But this is a TCU podcast, not an ACC podcast, so that'll be the last mention of that. Very excited for you guys to hear this episode. Again, Melissa sits down with Rob from Gamblin Gauchos to talk about the game, plus Big 12 Media Days news and notes from an incredible couple of days up in Kansas City. I sat down with Mark Campbell, women's basketball coach. I sat down with Hailey Van Lith. I sat down with Sedona Prince. Also sat down with men's basketball players Frankie and Noah Reynolds. We're going to hear from Jamie Dixon as well on this episode. Very excited for you guys to get through all of the content that we're packing in to this one episode of the pod. In order to get all of that through, though, let's do this podcast business really quickly, and then we'll jump right in. We are the Frogs Insider podcast presented by the Flying T Club. The Flying T Club is TCU's NIL collective. It is TCU's only NIL collective. They support over 110 student athletes, and they partner with a variety of organizations around Fort Worth to make the community better. Cut straight to the chase. You can go to flyingtclub.com and see all of the ways that you can get involved. Whether you're an individual a TCU fan that wants to donate to the collective, you can do that. If you're a company that wants to be a corporate sponsor, you can do that. If you want to find out what organizations the Flying T Club partners with and how you can get involved with those organizations, flyingtclub.com will give you more information on that. However you want to be involved with the Flying T Club, flyingtclub.com has more information for you. I know they'd love to hear from you. They're doing some incredible work. And frankly, the stories that are coming out of the Flying T Club are really fun to hear. You know, you hear a lot about these student athletes partnering with some of these organizations, going out into the communities, making them better. And realistically, it's kind of the nice, bright side of this new NIL landscape to see that not only are student athletes being compensated the way that they should be, but that they are giving back to the community that they're a part of in some really cool ways. So flyingtclub.com is where you can go to learn how you can get involved and see about the great work that they are doing today. Also, we are a part of the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Republic of Football Network. You can find the Republic of Football Network wherever you get your podcasts, and it is a feed with a show for every single D1 program in the state of Texas. That's 13 shows in one podcast feed. All you got to do is search Republic of Football Network and you will find it. Subscribe, leave a review. You'll see our content there. It'll be really cool. You'll get content from every other D1 school in the state of Texas as well. If you just want the TCU stuff, all you got to do is search Frogs Insider. You'll find our feed. It'll have a lot of exclusive shows that don't show up on the Dave Campbell's feed, including shows like this one because of some of the content we're doing. And you can go over to the YouTube channel, Frogs Insider YouTube. We're at 830 subscribers over on the YouTube channel at the time of this recording, which means we're getting closer and closer, ever closer to our 1,000 subscriber goal, where Melissa and I are going to do some pretty fun stuff to celebrate that accomplishment. But it doesn't happen without you guys, because you guys are the reason we do all of this. So if you could, please go over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment on one of the videos for the algorithm, leave a comment on this video for the algorithm, and maybe send it to a friend or a family member who needs to know more about the TCU and Texas Tech football game coming up this Saturday. All right, that's going to do it for all of my podcast business introductory BS. Let's jump into the real reason you're here. TCU, Texas Tech. They kick off at 2:30 on Saturday on Fox. Melissa sat down with Rob from the Gamblin Gauchos earlier this week to talk about the game. Let's jump into it right now.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another preview edition of the Frogs Insiders podcast, brought to you, as always, by the Flying T Club. One of the best things about playing an in-state rivalry game, and this is the second one we've gotten to do this season, is we get to be joined by one of our fellow members on the Republic of Football Network in the Gamblin Gaucho, or a Gamblin Gaucho. I'm so excited to be joined by Rob tonight, host of the Gamblin Gauchos, the Texas Tech podcast. I say the because it's the only one that you need to know. It is the best one out there. Definitely one of the funniest podcasts. And I will say, Rob, as much hatred as I've had in my heart for Texas Tech, you guys and your show was a big part in making me realize not all Red Raiders are bad. So thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We try to be inclusive, I guess, as much as we can until game week, and then we kind of throw it all away.
Yeah, well, then we can all hate each other, and that's fine. Yeah. But I think the difference now, and I between two bears has kind of done this too, is normally I would hate the opponent and then just keep hating them. But this time after game week, I tend to go back to enjoying y'all and everything you have to say. So by Monday, we can all be friends again. But we'll see how we feel on Saturday. Speaking of how we feel on Saturday, I think a lot of people around college football were shocked, I think is an appropriate word, for what happened in Lubbock when the Baylor Bears came to town. Obviously a very desperate Baylor Bears team. Dave Aranda is coaching for his job, it would appear, and some people were surprised that he was even on the sidelines for this game, but Baylor came in and kind of had their way with the Texas Tech defense, dropping a 60 bomb. We can empathize, we can relate, because SMU did the same thing to us. What kind of went wrong for Tech Saturday? Do you think it was more of an abnormality, or were there some signs that were concerning for the rest of the season?
Yeah, there's been some cracks in Texas Tech's facade this whole season. I think even going back to ACU, that's such a close game against an FCS opponent. And you say, well, there's 7 former Red Raiders. The coach was a former Red Raider coach. It was their Super Bowl. They're coming in here. They want to beat you. Just kind of a weird atmosphere. All right, we move on. Then you lose in Pullman, and all right, you can't win on the road. And then the season kind of turns around from that point. You hammer North Texas, 77 to whatever, 66 to 21, whatever it was. And you're like, okay, well, maybe you can play a little defense. And since then, North Texas has beaten everyone they've played until this week. They lose to Memphis, a ranked opponent. So maybe North Texas is pretty good. Maybe you start kind of talking yourself into it. You start 3-0 in conference play. You win on the road against Arizona. Everything's fine. Well, you still don't have a pass rush. The pass defense is still suspect at times with big plays. But you've stopped the run pretty well. And the offense has been moderately consistent at home. And Bear Morton has played clean football. Well, Bear Morton has a turnover and an interception, his first outside of Pullman, Washington this season. He's got 3. 2 were in Washington, 1 here in Lubbock now. You still don't have a pass rush, and Baylor gashed you on the ground. So everything you've kind of built up to this point was broken by Baylor. And then everything else that you had kind of built your season on was also kind of crashed by Baylor. So, yeah, the Baylor game was not good for Texas Tech's future, in my opinion. I don't know what Texas Tech is good at right now. And there were a few things I thought they were good at before the Baylor game.
Well, I think there's still some things from an outside perspective that you look at and think that Texas Tech is good at. And, that conversation probably needs to start with Taj Brooks. Absolutely one of the elite players in college football. Sonny Dykes said as much in his press conference Tuesday, one of the best players that TCU is going to play this season, undoubtedly. And the good news for Texas Tech fans is you get to face a TCU run defense that has been abhorrent Played well against Utah, played really well against Utah. Definitely their best defensive performance overall, but what they were able to do against Mekhi Bernard, even before he got banged up a little bit, gave TCU fans just the slightest bit of hope. But that's also a Utah team that was zero threat to throw the ball downfield minus one play. So Taj Brooks, if anyone is going to spark Texas Tech, get them back on the right track on the offensive side of the ball, is probably where that question is asked and answered. What do you think he's capable of doing against TCU's suspect run defense on Saturday in Fort Worth?
Yeah, the crazy thing about Taj Brooks is I don't think he's going to have a 250-yard crazy game.
Your lips to God's ears, Rob.
I don't think he's built that way, but he's also not going to have 40 yards in the game. He's going to go out. He's going to have 120 to 147 yards, and he's going to score a touchdown. And that's just what Taj Brooks is. He might pop one for 35. He might just get 8 yards 27 times and then tackled for 2 losses. That's just kind of what he's been his whole career. In his kind of breakout game a couple of years ago at Houston, in NRG, he had 2 big breakaway plays. And he really hasn't had much since. He's just kind of that guy who will stand behind the line of scrimmage for what feels like 5 seconds, look for a hole, and then hit it. And he might drag a guy 6 yards. He might get tackled in the backfield, but somehow fall forward for 3 yards. He is just kind of that runner. He is going to get his. And so I think even with bad rush defenses, with good rush defenses, put 5 in the box, put 8 in the box, Taj Brooks is going to get 100 yards. And it just depends what else happens with the offense. And look, Texas Tech is going to score a couple of drives a game fairly easily. And what they're going to do is run the ball and then hit either a play action shot down the field or an RPO over the middle. And Baron Morton's going to look really crisp. And then for about a quarter and a half, they're going to throw screens on first down and forget they have Taj Brooks early in drives and go 3 and out. And you're going to be like, what's going on? Why aren't we just running with Taj Brooks and then throwing the play action? Because that's what's really good for us. So it's going to be a Taj Brooks game, in my opinion, where he's there for most of the game. For about a quarter and a half, you forget he's there. And then at the end, hopefully, he's there again like Arizona and runs it for 37 yards and touchdown, and you ice the game. So, look, I just – Taj Brooks is the kind of player where you kind of look back after the game and say, oh, wait, he had 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. What are we talking about? So I do think he will get his, but it's kind of frustratingly not part of the offense sometimes. You feel like you have Taj Brooks sometimes, and then you have the offense sometimes.
Interesting.
And when you're really good, like against North Texas, you have them working together.
Yeah.
So
I want to dive in a little bit to Baron Morton, but because of the way that you framed that answer, I want to ask you about Zach Kittley first. It feels like this is a case of one of the brilliant minds in offensive football, maybe overthinking things a little bit too much or trying to get cute. I think TCU has the same issue with their offensive play caller as well at times. It's like, why don't you just stick with what's working and do that until the defense has to make an adjustment and then change your philosophy? How would you kind of rate Zach Kittley's job so far this season? Where is he successful? Where do you think you need to see some growth?
This has been Zach Kittley's best year at Texas Tech. And it's not coincidental that you've had a healthy quarterback the whole time. You had switching between quarterbacks. This is the first time Joey McGuire's had one quarterback through 7 games. And they're 5-2, and I kind of have to keep reminding myself of that because it does feel like you left the game 3-4, and Baylor left the game 5-2. But you're 5-2, you're 3-1 in conference play, and Zach Kittley called really good games, in my opinion, against Cincinnati and against Arizona State, and moved the ball well, ran the ball, was complimentary offensive football where you run the ball, you play field position, you kick field goals, pretty good in the red zone. But then there's, other Zach Kittley. And again, I was probably too harsh on Zach Kittley in the Baylor conversation. The offense wasn't the problem. The offense was fine against Baylor. You gave it 59 points.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the Stockholm syndrome that Texas Tech fans have with offense and defense. We're kind of beaten dogs, conditioned to think the offense is just supposed to outscore people because that's what we've always had to do. No, the defense should be able to stop something, somewhere, sometime. And what's crazy is I think Texas Tech has pretty good special teams. And they had the worst special teams in the Big 12 against Baylor. I don't think that happens week after week. And then defensively, you were just so bad. And I know you asked me about Zach Kittley, and I'm kind of avoiding it. I don't like Zach Kittley's offense. But I don't like, even when it's good, I don't like the style. I'm so tired of being in shotgun all the time and running out of one back formations and not throwing it to the tight end. They have like one target in 4 weeks. In fact, Jalen Conyers has thrown for more touchdowns than caught touchdowns.
That's crazy.
In the last several weeks. I don't like the offense. I think Zach Kittley's been fine for what he is this season, and I think the offense has been pretty good. And I know you're about to ask about Baron Morton, but Baron Morton inside the pocket of the offense, when Zach Kittley is calling the play action and keeping it on pace and running the ball early in drives and not throwing as many screens, I think the offense has been pretty good. But if I'm grading Zach Kittley just on the offense and how they've done, it's, I don't know, C+. I don't like that style.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about Baron Morton. It looks like he's going to surpass his career high in attempts against TCU on Saturday. He's just 20-something shy of that at this moment, which is and for a guy that I think a lot of us looked this summer when he was doing like experimental treatments trying to get back on the field, felt like his career was probably done. Well, not only has he put together a healthy season, but he's looked at times really, truly fantastic, like you mentioned. And up until Saturday, I mean, like you mentioned, no turnovers. He's taking care of the football. He's making good decisions. It helps that he has a Taj Brooks, and he also has some weapons at wide receiver. How would you characterize his play, not just from a siloed perspective of the season, but when you consider everything he's had to do to get to this point and to be sitting at 5-2 and 3-1 in the Big 12 with a truly clear path to potentially playing in a Big 12 championship?
Yeah, I'm gonna knock on all the wood right now.
Yeah, I know. I am too. I'm not trying to reverse jinx him. I promise you, that kid deserves to get to play a full season.
And again, when Baron Morton finishes this season as the healthy quarterback all the way through, he will be the first to do so since Nick Shimonek.
That's
in Lubbock.
Nuts.
That's
Shimonek, not true. That is insane.
For your audience, played at Texas Tech in 2017.
Yeah.
In more years than not, you've had 3 quarterbacks start games. And they've been of the names Alan Bowman, if you know him, from Oklahoma State.
He's still playing, although he got benched a little bit here. But
well, he's back because everyone else got hurt.
Yes.
Let's see. Jet Duffy. He won a game in 4 weeks.
Oh my God, I'd forgot. Wow, you're giving me PTSD, Rob. This is not cool.
Jackson Tyner, Henry Columby.
Oh, the Henry Columbia experiment.
who
My
actually
goodness.
won a game at Marshall against
Yep.
Notre Dame. Who else? Tyler Shuck, who is really good at Louisville right now, and he's also healthy for the first time in years.
Yeah.
And that's not all of them. I mean, you've had obviously an array of quarterbacks. McLean Carter, just
Taking me down memory lane here, man.
Playing, and Baron Morton has been really good this season. He is top 30 in passing yards. Again, has played fairly clean. But when I envision Baron Morton as an Eastland product coming here and eventually starting, I saw a gunslinger playmaking guy that could get outside of schedule. What I mean by that is the play call happens. The play call doesn't work. He can adapt and figure out a different style or avenue to make a play. Maybe a receiver breaks off, he gets around, he throws it to him instead. It felt like he did that early in his career. And then he hurt his ankle in his first start ever, and then again against TCU in his fourth start. Did not play again that year. And then he hurt his shoulder last year on like the second play he was in, and played through it a bunch of games last year, but was hurt the whole year. And those two injuries, I feel like, have maybe capped what Barron is creatively. I think he's still really good inside the scheduled offense. But I was asking my parlay picadors in our Discord the other day. I put up a poll, is Baron Morton a playmaker? Because I think he's a good quarterback. And for what he's been for Texas Tech this year, I don't think you beat Cincinnati or Arizona State without him. I think he's been really good at times. He was not good against Washington State, but Taj Brooks wasn't there, and you couldn't run the ball, so you're just thrown to the sideline the whole game. But I don't know that he's great. I haven't seen that yet. I haven't seen that je ne sais quoi that I dreamed about when Baron Morton was recruited here, that we saw in high school and that we saw against Oklahoma State, quite frankly. Getting outside the pocket, finding somebody down the field, throwing it. And maybe, again, this is just me dreaming about all the quarterbacks that Texas Tech had from 2000 to 2016. Some guy named Patrick Mahomes getting outside the pocket and chucking it down the field, or B.J. Simmons, or Seth Dagey even kind of finding a way to make a play. And Baron Morton has done that at times, but I want to see Baron Morton make a couple plays, and I don't necessarily want him to run, but to get outside the pocket and find something downfield. And I don't know if he's worried about getting hurt and he's not being a gunslinger, or if he just lost some of that edge. And he's just kind of hey, we're going to make the play. We're not going to do something stupid. And that's what he's being coached to do. And that's fine too. I thought we were going to get a little more, money, because that's what he was doing early in his career.
Listen, Rob, I want to respect your opinion and your concerns and all of these things, but also how many of those guys started 5-2? I mean, like as a broken TCU fan at 4-3 with a loss to Houston, it's so nice to be able to complain from tied for first or second place in the conference, isn't it?
He is. Yeah, he's the best Texas Tech quarterback since all those guys I just mentioned.
Yeah.
That's not. I wanted more from Baron.
For sure.
Look, if he's just going to be a bus driver and you go 5-2, 4-1, and you do that twice, fine.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad you're making a sacrifice, buddy. Like,
I'm not going to complain at the end. Yeah.
God dang.
Yeah.
It's eerily similar, I think, to what TCU fans feel about Josh Hoover. is
Yep.
that, and I was listening to a podcast earlier, and they were talking about Cam Ward, and Cam Ward being the kind of quarterback that when nothing else is going right can still find a way to go win you a game. And that's a question with guys like Baron Morton and Josh Hoover. When everything else is a problem, can those guys still put it on their shoulders to go win the game? And I think we could very well see that play out Saturday afternoon in Fort Worth, because this is going to likely be a high-scoring game, which means it's going to be another 13-7 affair because I said it. But yeah, which of those quarterbacks is going to be tasked with making a big play late, and who's going to deliver on that? And it'll be interesting to see. One thing I will be interested to see as well is this is really the first really efficient and effective passing offense TCU has played this season. Most of the teams that they've gone up against have been absolutely run first, and for good reason, because TCU's run defense has allowed teams to focus on that. But we saw them load the box a little bit, force Isaac Wilson into passing, but he's not nearly as seasoned or experienced a quarterback as Baron Morton. So I'm going to be fascinated to kind of see that chess match, how Andy Avalos responds, what that defense is able to do. Can they put Texas Tech in 3rd and longs, and is that actually an advantageous situation for TCU, because the cornerback play has not exactly been great, especially with balls down the field. And I have a feeling that Tech will really test that out Saturday afternoon.
They should.
Yeah,
I don't know that they will. I don't know that they will.
Yeah, they should.
You said a word, efficient. I don't. The passing offense hasn't been efficient. Taj Brooks is efficient. But yeah, the EPA numbers. I'm sure Statso or Parker Fleming has his. I'd like to see his EPA versus whatever he does, the Eckel rate.
Yeah, the Eckel rate. Yeah, I'd be fascinated to see too how these two passing offenses stack up, because TCU's at times has looked really efficient and effective, and at times has looked just like it's going to really struggle. And again, there are a lot of parallels here, I think, between the two passing offenses. We cannot compete on run game. TCU's run game can't cast a shadow to what Tech is able to do in the ground game, but the passing offenses might really be similar.
Yeah, and I 3 weeks ago, when I was looking forward to some Big 12 games, I thought to myself, if we can get past Arizona and get to the bye week, I think that would be really good, and we'll definitely beat Baylor. But I'm worried about TCU's passing game, because at that point I was really, really worried about Texas Tech's pass defense. Worried about TCU, worried about Iowa State, obviously, just because they're a great team. Colorado might throw for 700 against Texas
That game, it's going to be Oklahoma, Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be a repeat of that Baker Mayfield, Pat Mahomes game for sure.
I mean, you mentioned before we came on here that TCU is Texas Tech was a bad matchup in ways for TCU. I think TCU is a bad matchup for Texas Tech.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's both teams have opportunities to get right in what they do, because the other team isn't great about stopping what they want to do. So if both teams get right in ways, that means they haven't gotten right in ways that they need to get right. And I don't know. I don't know that this game makes either one better, but it certainly would put both these teams' trajectories on very different paths, win or lose.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right in that, because TCU comes into this 4-3, riding off of a big road win, even against a Utah team that is on the precipice of completely falling off the map here. But Texas Tech has a bounce back opportunity, and again, like sitting at 3-1 in conference play, a path to the Big 12 championship is right there in front of them, which would be not necessarily shocking, but would be kind of what Tech fans were hoping to see a season ago kind of come to fruition now behind a healthy quarterback. But the thing that might hold you back from that and that held you back Saturday was that defensive side of the ball. And again, like you said, it's like the same old story over and over again. And the PTSD for Tech fans on that in that realm has got to be great. TCU's passing offense has been its strength on that side of the ball. They did not pass the ball well against a pretty good Utah defense. But Josh Hoover has seemed a little bit out of rhythm over the last couple of weeks with his receivers just not getting on the same page. You mentioned that could be an area where they have some success. Where is Tech's pass defense been effective this season, and where do you think that you can see Hoover kind of take advantage of some weaknesses? That was too hard of a question. Effective.
No, I think Braylon Lux has been pretty good. And I think Mo Horn has grown up a lot this year. Texas Tech just hasn't been healthy on the front end of their talent. You lost so much from last year. Rabbit, the two starting corners, Dunlap, and it doesn't feel like the next crop of guys was truly ready. Now they've, again, Mo Horn has grown up a bit. Devin Cromwell from Guelph, Canada, Guelph University in Canada, has been playing a lot of safety for you in the last couple of weeks. So that's where you are. You went and found a guy from Canada, and he's been okay. But the pass defense, I thought, was a lot better until Baylor. So what are you going to see in Fort Worth? I'm not real sure, but I think Braylon Lux being healthy is a big step forward. I think if Chapman Lewis is playing, the defense is better. But what's frustrating is I think this defense, the secondary for sure, is going to be a lot better next year because they've played some snaps, but it's going to take this year to get better for next year. But quite honestly, the pass defense, I have no idea on the back end, but what I do know is Texas Tech is dead last in pressure and pressure rates in basically the country. I think Ball State doesn't get to the quarterback as much as Texas Tech, but that's the only sentence I can say with the only team I can say in college football. It's somebody like that. But Texas Tech does this thing where they have they've got a charity drive that they do every year for Ronald McDonald House. And it's like sack childhood cancer for Ronald McDonald House. And they give a certain amount of money for every sack. They're going to have to make some kind of donation at the end of the year because they're not going to make it to whatever they said they were going to make it to.
So what you're telling me is Texas Tech supports childhood cancer. Another reason to root against the Red Raiders. Jeez, Rob.
If you want to take it that way, you can, but they don't have very many sacks at all, and it's not like they're getting to the quarterback and not getting sacks. They're just not getting to the quarterback. Josh Hoover is going to have time to throw the ball, and that makes the secondary look worse because it's really easy to cover a guy for 2.5 seconds. It's infinitely harder to carry to cover him for 4.5. That seems like a really small window. But those extra 2 seconds are a lifetime in college football, and he might have 6.5 seconds with this defensive front. And against Arizona, they blitzed and twisted and did a bunch of stuff creatively up front. And against Baylor, they just stood there and got their butts kicked, pushed around, manhandled at the line of scrimmage. And what's really frustrating is in the Joey McGuire era, playoff Texas pushed Texas Tech around quite a bit, which they pushed a lot of people around last year. But the only team that's done that beyond Texas really has been Baylor, and it's been in Lubbock twice. I felt like Texas Tech physically has been pretty much in every other game. So I don't understand that. Maybe it's just a mental thing with Coach McGuire and Baylor, and that's where he was, and he can't get past it, and everybody else is fine. But I hope that they're going to throw every blitz, every twist, every slant they can think of against TCU to find some pressure. Because if they stay in this 3-man front and have 2 stars on the field and just sit back in coverage, they're not good enough to sit back in coverage, Josh Hoover will pick them apart.
Well, you're also not giving credit to TCU's offensive line, which is still rotating players at this point in the season. So you talk about a get-right game. I will be interested to see which end of that holds up the bargain, right? Can TCU's offensive line step up and provide protection against a less effective defensive front from the Red Raiders, or does Texas Tech have some success because TCU's offensive line is still rotating players as we head into game 8 of the season? That's going to be really interesting to see that unstoppable force, immovable object, but both are very movable objects.
You know that song, Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better?
Yes.
It's almost like we're playing the opposite right now.
Anything you
can't do, neither can I.
Do worse. Yeah,
neither can I. So,
well, all that to say, these two teams are going to play a game this weekend. They're going to play for one of the greatest trophies in college sports. Two very desperate teams, but for different reasons. TCU feels like it has a lot to prove. Tech needs that bounce back heading into I think both of these teams are heading into the meat of their schedule, the toughest stretch that they're going to have. How do you see Saturday afternoon playing out? TCU is a slight favorite as of this recording. That line has started to drop down and kind of come back to the mean a little bit. But TCU is the favorite. I don't know if that should be correct or not. But Texas Tech has certainly been the better team so far this season.
I have not looked at that line.
I'll pull it up. I'll do some fact checking on air.
But I think it was up to 6.5 or 7.
At one point it was. Yeah.
It would not surprise me if Tech bettors bought that back down to like 4.5 at kickoff.
It's 5.5 according to BetMGM right now. So I don't know if that's the best line, but that is the current line.
It would be even crazier if it's bet all the way down to 3.5 and then somebody comes in and swoops and makes a huge bet for TCU at the end and it closes higher than that. But I see, and maybe this is just me saying Texas Tech is 4-9 on the road under Joey McGuire and has struggled against TCU since they've joined the Big 12, though I think Texas Tech has won more in Fort Worth than they have in Lubbock against TCU.
I think you're right. It's one of those weird. This is a weird rivalry game. It is always weird. It is always chaotic.
I'm glad the saddle is back, though.
Yeah, it's a great trophy.
For a while. It's the West Texas Championship. People call it the Battle for the Saddle, but it's the West Texas Championship. I honestly have no idea. Well, here's what I hope happens. I hope everyone has fun.
It's the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, the Neil Brown. I can see a scenario where Texas Tech really gets back to the basics of their offense and runs the ball and tries to be physical and has the play action game working and tries to get the ball to Coy Aiken and Caleb Douglas and Josh Kelly, who all at times have been very good, and defensively tries to be physical and rushes the passer and comes out pissed off, piss and vinegar, and it holds on for the first half, and then TCU makes a run in the second. I can absolutely see that happening. The score, do you have the total up?
Over under is 66.5.
Oh. Yeah, I think it'll be I think it'll be under that.
Really?
I don't see it being crazy. Yeah, I just don't think these teams are efficient enough. Can they both score? Yes. Will they both also have a full quarter and a half where they don't score and don't move the ball and punt the ball back and forth to each other? Probably.
TCU had 9 straight punts at one point on Saturday. So, yeah.
Yeah, Cute Kindle and Kitley will absolutely try to out-cute each other at times.
They really are. The empty calories offenses are going to be just extraordinary to watch.
And what's crazy is I think they both have decent systems.
Yeah.
But they hate being boring. And you probably don't want me saying his name on the podcast, but Art was so good at being boring. And that's why that offense was so good. The Browns offense was so good because they just ran the ball and threw 4 verts. That's all they did. And Kendall tries to take that offense and make it fancy. And it's just not what it was at Baylor. I don't know, 30-24, somebody wins.
Yeah, all right. I mean, that sounds like a pretty good – I'll be disappointed if we hit the under on this game, although, again, nothing would surprise me at any point in this season for either of these teams. It's going to be a fascinating one. It should be fun. The weather's supposed to be perfect in Fort Worth. This is TCU's first daytime home game this season, which is kind of a crazy thing to say. So, but it's Texas Tech TCU. Something weird is going to happen. I'm interested to see what type of random animal is on the field during this game, or, who checks in with the wrong jersey. Something weird is going to happen in this one. We know that to always be the case. Rob, where can people find your work and hear more about the Red Raiders? And, of course, Big Ten football, as you went on that little rant there for a while on social media.
Yeah, well, I was kind of leaning into a bit that my co-host Kyle on the Gamblin Gauchos was trying to get across, even though he's SEC Kyle, and I didn't say that about him, but he,
You said it here. I'm clipping
it. When they go low, you go high, right? No, you can find me on the Gamblin Gauchos at Gamblin Gauchos on Twitter, at Rob Bro Show on Twitter. If you're local in Lubbock or just like to listen to a Texas Tech perspective, you can also hear me on 100.7 The Score, 9 to noon most days on the radio. So there you go.
Well, I highly recommend listening to Rob and not Kyle, the better half of the Gamblin Gauchos. We don't support those SEC wannabes whatsoever. Rob, thanks so much for taking some time. I know we're looking forward to a fascinating game, and one of us is going to be really happy and one of us is going to be really sad by Saturday night, because like you said, I feel like this could be in a way a season-defining game for both of these programs.
Knowing Texas Tech, even if they win, they will find a way to be sad as well.
Isn't that the truth? Don't we love this stupid sport that we hate so much?
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Rob. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Big thanks to Rob for joining us. Always love hearing his voice. He is a silly goose. Love talking to Rob. Love hearing Rob break down the games. And if you don't listen to the Gamblin Gauchos, again, Republican Football Network, you can get the Gauchos and the Frogs Insider Pod all in one feed, along with a bunch of other shows as well. They do a great job over there at Gamblin Gauchos, even if they are a little unhinged on social media at times. Okay, Big 12 Media Days for men's and women's basketball took place this week in Kansas City. A lot of folks there. Some really cool stuff went down, but we're going to jump into some of the interviews that I did, some one-on-ones that I had with some TCU folks. So let's just go ahead and jump in. This is a conversation that I had with TCU women's basketball coach Mark Campbell, talking about the upcoming season, talking about some strategy. I can tell you, like, folks, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of head coaches over the years. Been doing this for over a decade. Mark Campbell's got the juice. And I think that's one of the few times I've ever been able to say that about a head coach and not have it feel kind of Homer-ish. Mark Campbell's got the juice, y'all. And I'm very excited to see what year 2 looks like for him and the women's basketball team. Let's jump into that conversation right now.
All right, Coach, we're here at Big 12 Media Days. A couple weeks till the season. I know your women have been working really hard. Just talk about the progress that the team has made, bringing these transfers and freshmen in and gelling them with the team.
Yeah, you really said it. It's getting the old group, the returners, and the newcomers all on the same page, and that's a process. It's been 4 weeks now. I think we're in a great spot. We've had one close scrimmage, and then we've had a couple scrimmages inter-squad where we bring referees in. But last Sunday, we had a inter-squad scrimmage. I would say that was the best basketball we've played, and so it's been neat, the progression over these 4 weeks, to watch these kids. We're really talented. We're really deep this year, and getting them to play together and play the game right, it's been fun, and it's coming together.
So 2 weeks left.
Yep.
What's the progress? What are you trying to accomplish between now and the first game?
Now you got to clean up, the controllables. We're still turning it over too much, but that's okay because you want to play fast and you want to give them freedom, so you kind of got to live with that.
Yeah.
And then we're fouling too much, and that is something you got to clean up. The start of the year in college basketball, they always call it tight. For about 2-3 weeks, man, they're calling every ticky-tack thing, and so you don't want to put yourself in position early on in the year that some of your main players are in foul trouble.
So you think about where this team was a year ago, where you've gotten them to this point. How much has health and nutrition played into this offseason, and have you changed anything about that side of the program to do some more preventative stuff this year?
Well, you can't prevent it. If you look at what the injuries were from, right? You got Jaden Owens does a jump stop non-contact at Houston.
Yeah.
You know, Sedona Prince fractures her finger on the opening possession on a pass at Baylor.
True.
Madison Connor, one of our players dove after a loose ball and sprains her MCL. So there's some stuff that's not controllable. And so I'd say the best prevention is a great strength and conditioning program to get their bodies right, which we've done, and we do a great job at TCU. And so it is what it is. You got to be wise and careful in regards of people are trying to earn playing time this time of the year, but still be wise. You know, don't no dumb fouls, and don't be reckless or careless while you play hard and compete.
You brought in a lot of new faces, brought back a lot of really important pieces as well, but who stood out to you most these past few weeks as you've been preparing for the season?
Man, that's a great question because we're old. And so you got that group of returners that know the system and style of play, so they kind of have a little advantage.
Yeah.
But you've brought in some of the best players in college basketball. And so just getting to watch this group compete against each other and battle, the separation, there hasn't been this massive separation as you would think. I'm going to give Hailey a lot of credit for learning a new system. I think it's really tricky at the point guard spot, at the combo guard spot in our pick and roll system. That Donovan Hunter and Hailey as newcomers in that system, it's a lot to learn. And I think both of them deserve a lot of credit for making it look easy and kind of seamless.
And we had a chance to talk to Hailey a few moments ago, and she was talking about the freedom that she has in this system and her ability to be creative. But you've also surrounded her with some incredibly veteran pieces, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
What are you expecting from her this season as far as growth? And then when she talks about freedom, what does that freedom really look like?
Hailey is so skilled and is one of the best one-on-one playmaking guards in college basketball. So the freedom is allow Hailey to breathe and be herself and go make plays. I say unleash Hailey. Unleash just means, that doesn't mean score 40. Unleash means, if that means have 12 assists one game, do that. If that means score 30, do that. But go make the right play and give her the freedom to do that. Now, I think our team is so balanced because you have shooters everywhere. You have a true post presence. You have playmaking guards. You can't key on anybody. A year ago, teams started to really key on Madison Connor and key on Sedona Prince. It's really hard because of our talent to just key on one player.
5 out, 4 out, 1 in. I know you worked through a bunch of different systems last year. Are you looking forward to the versatility of this team and the multiplicity of this team this season?
Oh, I think that's where it's hard to scout us. And the depth allows you. These players don't have to log heavy minutes. We talk about injuries. That's another thing. Last year, there was a small group that had to log heavy minutes. This year, nobody has to wear themselves out. It's a long season, and you're trying to set yourself up for March and to have a deep run in March. And so can you manage that roster over the 5 months so that when March rolls around, we're playing our best basketball?
Awesome. Anything else you want to say to the TCU fan base?
Yeah, come out and support this group. We got an exciting group. We're going to play an exciting brand, and so come check us out. November 5th, 6:30 against Houston Christians, our season opener.
You just heard him. That's TCU women's basketball head coach Mark Campbell. Frog fans, we're going to talk to you later. Go Frogs.
All right, that was Mark Campbell, TCU women's head basketball coach, breaking down the upcoming season. Let's just go straight into the next interview. It's one that I promoted all over socials earlier this week. A couple of minutes here, me standing next to Hailey Van Lith, the superstar transfer that joined TCU women's basketball this offseason, coming from LSU and previously Louisville. She is spending her grad year at TCU. Here is my conversation with Hailey Van Lith.
All right, Frog fans, standing here with TCU's newest combo guard, Hailey Van Lith, transfer from LSU. We're 2 weeks away from your final season of college basketball. What's your mentality heading into the year?
Yeah, I mean, really, the goal is to take it one game at a time and be present in every moment. I feel like sometimes as athletes, we get so caught up in the future, in the NCAA tournament, in March Madness, and the good teams are going to take it one day at a time. So that's what I hope we do.
So you had options when you hit the portal. That's, I think, is a safe thing to say. What led you to take a leap of faith on TCU, as Mark Campbell said a minute ago?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Campbell might call it a leap of faith, but for me, I was very sure in my decision. I've had a previous relationship with him. He recruited me to Oregon out of high school when he was the assistant there, and he's a very genuine, authentic person, and I trust his opinion. And he said that he thought that they could help me reach my full potential for this last year, and I 100% believe him. And I think the system that TCU has is perfect for me, and it's perfect for me not only to thrive but also to grow and become better. So that's all I can ask for.
So when you talk about thriving, growing, getting better, what are kind of some of the keys to that, and what are some of the ways that you feel like you need to grow?
Yeah, I think when I look at the league, with my height and my position, I need to be able to shoot the ball from the three at an elite level. I probably need to be able to take a step off the line as well and have some range. So that's been a big thing for me, is emphasizing, incorporating the three more into my game and extending my range, and also playing in the pick and roll and being able to make reads out of that. And that's all we do at TCU. They call it pick and roll university. So I'll have every opportunity to get better at that and showcase that I'm capable of doing that. So all I can ask for is opportunity to do it.
It's good to be in a system that prepares you for the next step, for the next
100%.
thing. And speaking of the next thing, women's basketball, not only at the collegiate level, but the WNBA is growing at an insane pace right now. What's your perception of why that's the case, why now, and how awesome is it to see?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why it's happening now is because we have a perfect storm with the type of talent that's being produced, and also the age of media and social media and TV, and just how that's so accessible to everybody. And also NIL has helped get players' brands out there, players' names. A lot of women's basketball people are fans because of one specific player. And, if that's how it has to start, that's okay. You always have to start somewhere. But I think the talent has always been elite in women's basketball, but these last couple of years has been the perfect environment for media, talent, TV, game schedule, NCAA, everything coming together at the right time to help grow the game.
You mentioned social media. You have a huge social media presence.
Yeah.
How do you isolate basketball versus brand deals, socials, all the things that you have when it's time to hoop? How do you isolate that?
Yeah, I am fortunate with the team that I have around me. I have a lot of great people that, the key is them knowing me really well. And they know me. They know that when basketball season comes around, basketball is always the first priority for me. It's my love. It's my passion. I'm never going to sacrifice basketball for an NIL deal, for media, anything like that. And, they know that, so they know how to help me navigate that. And so I'm super blessed with that, but I think also with me, I keep my priorities straight, and that's also what people love about me. I might not be the most active person on TikTok, but they appreciate that because that's who I am. And it's okay to be genuine to yourself. And if you aren't an Instagram girl and you're a Twitter girl, that's okay. Be authentic to Twitter. Just things like that. And I'm going to continue to be me, and hopefully the public continues to enjoy it.
Absolutely. Last question for you. You're one of the best players in college basketball. You've played against some of the best basketball players. And I know that you're one of your big idols, one of your big inspirations is one of the best basketball players to ever do it. Talk about his influence. Talk about what you learned from him and how you kind of carry his memory forward.
Yeah. From a skill standpoint, Kobe taught me how to keep the game simple. And when you see I play out of a jab step, pump fake, a lot, and that was Kobe. You know, he taught me that sometimes you got to play without dribbling the ball, and that's how you set people up. Jab game, pump fake game, footwork, pivoting, things like that. But the biggest thing for me with Kobe was the mental side. And he started me on my journey of learning how important the mental side is. And, you know, that was his biggest message to me was, you know, how to cultivate that internal environment where you can just thrive and have no boundaries. And, you know, unfortunately, he passed, and so I've had to continue that journey on my own, but you know, I haven't lost it. His words have always stayed with me, and you know, I think I'm in a good place right now.
Awesome. Hailey, thank you for the time.
Yeah.
Frog fans, you can catch Hailey and the rest of the women's basketball team November 5th, 6:30 at Schollmeyer, first game of the season. Hope to see you all there. Go Frogs.
A big thanks to Hailey for taking the time. She, you know, Media Days looks a lot different for different players. And when it comes to Hailey and the type of day she had at Media Days, she was constantly going 90 miles an hour. She did ESPN, she did Sirius Radio, she was all over the place. Everybody wanted a one-on-one interview, blah, 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 all the stuff. She said no to a lot of people. Fortunately, she didn't say no to us over here at Frogs Insider because she's a good person, knows how to appease the fan base, and appreciate her taking the time to chat. She's really sharp, and I'm looking forward to seeing her play in TCU Purple this fall and this season. All right, next interview coming up, Sedona Prince, another superstar on the women's basketball team. We have a little bit of conversation too about her influence on the current state of women's athletics and college athletics as a whole, because as you know, she is one of the folks that was advocating for equality when it came to the men's and women's basketball tournaments a couple of years ago while she was still at Oregon. She's a large reason why women's basketball is where it is from a facilities, support, recognition standpoint, and she's pretty damn talented. So she's a reason that women's basketball is growing in popularity on the court as well. So we talk a little bit about the season, her expectations for her final year of college basketball, and then her work as an advocate for the sport and for college athletics as well. Let's jump into that conversation with Sedona Prince.
Hey, Frog fans, Jamie Plunkett here with Horned Frog Blitz 24/7 Sports, standing next to Sedona Prince, one of TCU women's basketball's great players. Sedona, you're 2 weeks away from the season. I know it's been a long off season, a lot of new faces on the program, working hard, trying to stay healthy. But how much are you looking forward to this year of college basketball?
Oh man, feels like I've been looking forward to it for the last 6 years.
Okay.
To be honest, it feels like I've been, you know, everything's been building up for this year for me, and so I'm excited. I love this team so much. We have a very special bond, a very special group of girls. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see us, you know, where we can take it. But I'm just excited to get on the floor and compete against someone else.
What are your goals and expectations for yourself before we get into the team?
Yeah, for myself, I mean, I've definitely struggled with, you know, being a very, I would say, more timid player than I would like to be.
Okay.
I think this comes from, you know, what I've been taught, what I've been told throughout my career. And so I think just mentally locking in as much as I can this year, so all mentality, I think is my biggest struggle. And so, you know, putting all the doubt and fear in my head aside and just going out and giving all I can for my team and my, you know, everything I can to win and to be the best player I can be selflessly is what I want to do.
When you think about the expectations that are on this team in such a short amount of time, from the time you got here to now, what do you think the actual ceiling is for this team? I mean, it's the depth, the talent. It all seems like everything's kind of aligning at the right moment.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. That's what it feels like. It feels like it's all, you know, definitely in God's timing. God has a purpose for our team and for, you know, the girls on it. I think that we've all been through very interesting and unique careers, all of us. Very difficult times, a lot of adversity. And so to see it all come together this year is very, very beautiful and you know, amazing. But yeah, I mean, coming into a program that was 1-17, worse than the Big 12, definitely did not expect it to turn out like this, and you know, everything to happen as it has, and so it's amazing, you know. But the ceiling for this team, I think, is the sky's the limit. We really have no idea what we can do or we're capable of, but we do know it's special, and we do know that whatever it is, we're going to give it our best. We're going to work really, really hard and do everything we can, control. And so I'm excited. It's all a wonder. We really have no idea. Like we're kind of like the wonder team. Everyone's excited, but kind of who knows? And we feel the same way. We just are excited to get out there and work hard.
That's part of the joy, right? Is not knowing, just being on that journey. From a TCU perspective, you're on one journey. From a college basketball perspective, it seems like women's hoops is on its own journey.
Yes.
It's exploded. You've been a huge part of that with the advocacy work that you have done for the sport and for women's sports in general.
Yeah, thanks.
Just talk about how happy you are or what your reaction is to seeing the sport grow the way it has.
Oh yeah, it's all happiness. I mean, it's amazing. It's beautiful. I'm so blessed to be a part of it, to be a name that people throw out when they talk about, the explosion in women's sports, especially women's basketball. Just grateful to be a part of that. I'm grateful to have been, a proponent of the sport. I feel like, I was used as a tool, able to, with my platform, I was used by God to fulfill His purpose, and that's, growing the sport. And so that's what I continue to do this year. It's my goal. It's amazing to see, the love and support that I think women's basketball should have been getting a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it's definitely relieving to see now.
And not only the sport, but college athletics itself. You're an advocate for rev share, for players getting paid, compensated for their time, for their efforts. When you think about your legacy, and it includes helping get rev share, growing the game, getting equality for women's basketball to where you have the naming rights, you have the same facilities, you have, whatever the hell was in that little Tupperware that you had to eat a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
Just thinking about your legacy. What do you want the biggest takeaway to be for people?
I think that I was put on this earth to fulfill a certain purpose, and I feel like that is to make better, to fix a system that's broken, to fix a lot of, inequities and issues in college basketball. A lot, if not most, of which I have faced myself, from athletic trainers to coaches to gender inequity. To I've faced the crisis of leaving college sports.
Yeah.
And so I think that God has placed me in this very unique position to take all that I've learned and to help make a change and make a difference. And that's all I want to do. And so my legacy, I hope that people see me as that's what I was here to do. It's my passion. It's what I love to do. And that hopefully by the time I'm gone, college athletics will look much different and much better and much more equitable.
Awesome. Well, you've got one last season to do it. You're going to be rocking TCU purple the whole way. We're very excited to see what the season holds for you and the rest of the team. So good luck.
Thank you.
Big thanks to Sedona for taking the time. She had a similar media day experience to Hailey Van Lith, so thankful that they both took the time out of a hectic day to stop and chat. Let's shift now. Let's shift over to men's hoops, and let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the men's team. They were also in Kansas City this week. They had a lot of obligations as well. We managed to grab 2 transfers, Noah Reynolds and Frankie Collins. We're going to get into those interviews here in just a second. The first one is going to be from Noah Reynolds, transfer in from Green Bay. He started his time at Wyoming and is now here at TCU. He's been identified by Jamie Dixon as one of the leaders on the team. Hopefully going to have a really big impact on the program this year. Let's jump into my conversation with Noah right now.
Frog fans, Jamie Plunkett here with Horned Frog Blitz, 24/7 Sports, standing next to one of TCU's newest guards, Noah Reynolds, the transfer from Green Bay. Noah, you've been on campus for a couple months now, getting used to the system, getting used to your new teammates. Just tell me, how's everything going?
It's been great. We got a lot of good guys, a lot of young guys who, as seniors, we've been called upon to lead, and it's just been a blessing, man. Just the staff, the people within the program, the community around TCU. It's just been a blessing, and I'm glad I'm within the program.
So Jamie Dixon's named you a couple times publicly as being one of the leaders, especially on the court. What do you take pride in, not only from just a point guard perspective, but from a leadership perspective?
I would say I take pride in building genuine relationships and being a guy that my teammates can call upon outside of basketball. So, like when this is all over, I want to be looked at as a guy who is always genuine and honest and just always wanted the best for the team. So I would say that's what I take pride in.
So TCU's your third stop. Started your career at Wyoming, and now funny enough, you've got a former teammate in Brendan Wetzel here with you at TCU. Just talk about what you knew from him at Wyoming and how cool it is to be back with him again.
Yeah, no, Wenzel is awesome. I would say, just the comfortability of stepping out every day and just seeing a familiar face, it just does so much for your confidence as a basketball player. We've logged hundreds of practices with each other. So I think that helped tremendously with the transition. Just having a great friend in him and being able to, talk with him every day and pick his brain. So, that's been awesome.
That's awesome. We almost had Sparky walking through our shot here. Fun days at Big 12 Media Days. All right, man, so tell me a little bit about your game for Frog fans who maybe aren't familiar. We know you're really good off the pick and roll. You can shoot the three. You like to distribute, but just what do you feel your strength is?
Yeah, so it's transcended through my time in college. And like I said back there, I feel like every year in college you got to reevaluate and see what your team needs for you to bring to the table. And I think that's where my strengths are. I've been called upon to do many roles in college, whether that's an off-the-bench facilitator or a volume scorer or, some guy who can do a little bit of everything. So, I would say that I'm just a physical guard who understands angles and balance at a pretty good level. And I love to get my teammates involved. So I really enjoy facilitating and passing the basketball, and winning is above everything for me. So, that trumps everything. So,
have you worked on your lobs with Ernest yet?
Yes, yes, I have. No, he's honestly, the way that he can track the rim in air is unlike anything I've ever seen from a center as a lob threat. It's quite amazing.
That's awesome. Hey, man, so you're in the Big 12 now. Obviously, we're here at Big 12 Media Days. As you look around, you see some of the guys you're going to be competing against, knowing kind of the caliber of the conference. Just how excited are you to get into Big 12 play later this year?
Man, I'm so excited. The atmospheres that we're going to be going into is unlike anywhere else in the country. So, there's no better place to be in your last year. So
it's pretty good. All right, Frog fans, that's Noah Reynolds, new TCU point guard. We're going to be seeing a lot of him starting in early November. November 1st, actually, exhibition at Dickies Arena against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Man, we're going to see you out there. Be good. Appreciate the time.
No problem.
All right, go Frogs.
All right, that was Noah Reynolds, TCU guard, coming in hot with some of those takes. Love what I heard from him. Really thoughtful kid. Really excited to see what he's capable of doing for the Frogs this year. And then the final interview that we're going to do on the show tonight. This one's with Frankie Collins. What's not part of this interview is something that Frankie said in the kind of group media session on Wednesday in Kansas City, as the players were each sitting at their kind of team designated tables. Folks were throwing questions at him, all this kind of stuff. And Frankie got a question from somebody asking, hey, you played at Arizona State most recently. You played TCU twice. You played TCU once in the tournament. You played TCU last year as well. Did that have a factor in, you wanting to look at TCU when you hit the portal? And he said, yeah, they kicked our ass twice. So it was a pretty funny moment from Frankie Collins talking about his trip from Arizona State to TCU and some of the influential moments in his life that brought him to Fort Worth. Here's a conversation, though, now with me and Frankie.
Hey, Frog fans, Jamie Plunkett here with 24/7 Sports and Horned Frog Blitz, standing next to Frankie Collins, one of TCU's newest guards. Frankie, as you've gotten onto campus, started to meet your new teammates, learn the system, just tell me, how are things transitioning at TCU?
Things been great. I really enjoy, the transition. I like Fort Worth a lot, and I love my teammates, love the coaches, and I love just the style of play and just everything we got going, so I'm enjoying it.
You when you were at Arizona State, you were one of those guys when you had the ball in your hands, you were incredibly efficient, getting the ball out to teammates, kind of being that real true facilitator for the offense. Is that kind of how TCU has you envisioned in this system as well?
Yeah, so they kind of, wanted me to come over and kind of do the same things I did over at Arizona State, but obviously win more and just, be a little more efficient when it comes to shooting and, taking better shots and early in the shot clock and things like that. So I've been working with them. We've watched a lot of film and we've broken down a lot of things. So I've been coming along very well.
One of the things that we always hear about from new faces in the program is the conditioning required to run the court and be as fast in transition as you guys are. I know that you guys are working on made baskets transition right now. So just tell me, how's all that going? Do you feel like you're in good shape?
I think I came in really good shape because I never really had a hard time with conditioning. So I mean, Arizona State played kind of fast. It's not TCU's fast, number one in the country fast,
Sure.
but like I've definitely had to make adjustments as far as how structured the transition is. Because, you know, Coach Dixon wants you in certain spots. He wants you to catch the ball in certain spots and things like that. So I think I've got acclimated to it pretty well, and I think it's gonna. Man, I'm excited for that part.
Yeah, just getting out and running.
Yeah,
I know
getting
they
out and running.
led the country last year,
Yeah.
and it gets the fans hyped up. It gets everybody kind of
Yes,
going,
sir.
gets all the momentum. But when you get into that half-court offense, too, it seems like TCU really made a decision to go out and get shooters this offseason.
Yeah.
You guys can spread the floor.
Yes.
Obviously, you got Ernest down low doing his thing as well. But just tell me, when this offense is kind of getting into that half-court, what can we expect?
I think you can expect a lot of playmaking. I think you have a guy like Noah, you have a guy like me who can really playmake for others off the dribble and off the bounce, and you have a guy coming off the bench like LaShawn who's a spark, man, and can't too many people stay in front of him in the country. So I think then you have the guys like Micah Robinson, Brendan Wenzel, and RJ who can just shoot the ball just with no matter if it's contested or off. If you get it to them in their pocket, it can go up and it'll go in. So we got some good players around us that could really make shots.
So you've started at Michigan,
Yes, sir.
Arizona State, now at TCU. Tell me a little bit about what you've learned at those first two stops that you're carrying with you here.
I think more so the most I've learned is just how to defend, how to be a leader, and you know how to win games. So I mean, if you not saying you have to, but like if you break down film and like from when I was at Michigan to now, like I think I've learned how to control games, learned how to like balance within getting people involved and, you know, scoring and, you know, doing the things to help us win. So things like that.
Awesome. Walking straight through the shot. You did. It's all right. No worries. It's all good.
That's crazy.
It's what editing's for.
Yeah.
So Coach Dixon's mentioned you as one of the guys who's really stepped up into a leadership role. It's hard, you know, when you've got a ton of new faces,
Yeah.
both freshmen and transfers.
Yeah.
Ernest, the only guy that played minutes for this team last year. How did you kind of determine that was something that you were going to do or needed to do, and who else has kind of stepped up as well?
Another person who stepped up was Noah. We also have a redshirt freshman who kind of stepped up in a vocal aspect of leading sometimes is Isaiah Manning. So, I mean, for me, it was just more so, I've always been a natural leader. I've always had a voice that people listen to and things like that. So it's just more so gaining trust from the guys, and I can't gain trust from them if I'm not going out there giving it 110%. So I had to come in, you know, work hard and, you know, give 110% so they can see that, okay, this is someone we can follow behind. So now when I say things, they get the message gets across to them. So.
Yeah, they take it seriously because it's coming from a voice they trust. All right, man. Frankie Collins, I'm going to let you go, but Frog fans, one of your new point guards, you're going to see him this year, starting November 1st at Dickies Arena against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Are you looking forward to that?
Yes, I can't wait. It's going to be exciting. I hope to see you guys there.
All right, Frog fans, we'll talk to you next time. Go Frogs.
Awesome. Big thanks to all of those folks for stopping down and taking the time during what was a pretty hectic media days. And look, you can find all of these interviews video form on the YouTube channel. If you're not watching this specific podcast, they're all going to be broken out over the next couple of days and posted individually. You can also see both of the group media interview sessions for the women and the men. Those are both up on the channel, and you can see the group media session with Jamie Dixon. We were about to start filming a one-on-one with him and I, and then he got called away to Sirius Radio, so we didn't manage to squeeze that in up in Kansas City, but did record the group media session, which was really just me asking him a bunch of questions anyways. So you can find that on the Frogs Insider YouTube channel. You can see all of this other great content on the YouTube channel as well. You've just got to go over there and hit that subscribe button, leave a comment for the algorithm, share it with a friend. And if you're more interested in the audio version, I can't blame you. That's my style as well. Find the Frogs Insider podcast wherever you get your shows, and you can just hit the subscribe button, share it with a friend, leave a rating and a review. Leave those ratings. We'd love to have them. And we will see how things are the next time we get together, which is post-Texas Tech and TCU football. We'll see. Melissa will be back in studio with me. We'll be breaking down the game, and we'll hopefully be talking about a TCU win and a 5-3 Horned Frogs team. But until then, we'll talk to you next time. Go Frogs.